Today we're going to be putting every Minecraft mob into a tier list. Starting with amazing, then we're moving to great, good, mid, disappointing, and bad. You can play along by making your own tier list in the comments. I don't have anything particularly wrong with the allay, but I just think it could have been a lot better, like it just picks up and gives you items. So to start off this tier list, I'm gonna put the allay in disappointing. Could have been better. Next up we have the axolotl. Now let me tell you, I don't have anything against this mob, but all it does is it can be a pet if you put it in a water bucket and it eats fish, specifically tropical fish. So that's cool, but like, what's its function aside from being cute? I'm putting this in mid. Next up we have the bat. Let me tell you, this is pretty much the most useless mob in Minecraft, okay? It does nothing but fly around in caves, look kind of cute, drops nothing, it's garbage. This is going in bad, our first one. Next up we have the bee. Now bees are actually pretty cool mobs. They're neutral, which means that if you hit them, they'll hit you. They make honey, which can be made into honeycomb blocks, honey bottles, and honey blocks. So yeah, I think bees are pretty cool. I'm gonna put them in good because I don't think they're quite good enough to be great. Next up we have the blaze. Now the blaze is a really interesting mob. Not only is it really cool and shoots fireballs and it's really terrifying, it also drops blaze rods, which are essential for beating the game and for brewing potions, so I'm going to put blaze in amazing. Next we have the camel. Now the camel's an interesting mob. My problem with it though is that it's very rare and it pretty much is just like a horse but in the desert. You can put a saddle on it and you can ride it, and it has a nice dash, which is just a long jump. So that's cool, but like, it has no other purpose. I'm gonna put this one into disappointing because I feel like it could have been a lot better. Next up we have the cat. Now the cat is a great mob. Not only can you tame it and make it your pet with fish, it also will bring you a present home if you leave it out at night. Something like rabbit hide or a phantom membrane rarely. It also scares away creepers, which makes it useful for creeper farms, so the cat is a very good mob. I'm gonna put it up in great because I don't think it's quite as good as the blaze, but it is very good. Next up we have the cave spider. The cave spider spawns in mine shafts, and it's pretty much a spider, but it deals poison damage. So when you kill it, it drops the same thing that spiders drop. I'm gonna say this is an okay mob. I'll just put it in mid, nothing special. Next up we have the chicken. The chicken can be killed for either raw chicken or feathers. Raw chicken being cooked into cooked chicken is a decent food source, not so good. Feathers can be used in arrows, so I'm gonna say the chicken is a good mob. It's not great, but it's not mid. Next up we have the cod. There's not much to say about this mob. If you kill it and cook it, it's an okay food source, really not very good. I'm gonna say it's safely an eh. And now we have the cow. The cow is a good food source as it drops raw beef when you kill it. It also drops leather, which can be helpful, and if you milk it, you can get milk, which removes status effects, also helpful. I'm gonna put cow in great. Now we have the creeper. The creeper is pretty iconic. You can kill it for gunpowder, which is always helpful if you need firework rockets. And of course, it explodes, which is actually pretty cool. The creeper is a great mob, and that's why I'm going to put it in the great tier. Now we have the dolphin. I know a lot of people like the dolphin, it seems to be a fan favorite in the Minecraft community, but it doesn't really do that much. It just makes you swim faster, which is cool and all, but like, what's the appeal? Look, I understand you're gonna disagree with me, but I'm putting the dolphin in mid. Now we have the donkey. The donkey is honestly a kind of boring mob. It's pretty much exactly like the horse, but it's just slower. At first I thought maybe it had another function, but the donkey literally just seems to be a horse that moves slower, doesn't jump as high, and is just overall worse. I mean, I don't really see the appeal of the donkey. This is going in eh. Now we have the drowned. The drowned is just a water zombie, and sometimes it can spawn with a nautilus shell or a trident, so that's pretty much the only reason I don't think it's completely horrible. I'm putting it in mid because that's exactly what it is. The Elder Guardian. Now this mob should have been a good one, but it's terrible. I mean, it's supposed to be the boss of the ocean pretty much, but when you kill it, which is easy to do, it drops sponge. I guess it also drops prismarine crystals and shards, but does that really make up for it? I don't think so. I'm putting the Elder Guardian into disappointing. The Ender Dragon. This is the final boss of the game, and really, there's only one place for this to be put. It's nostalgic, it's iconic, it's amazing. This boss is going into the amazing tier. The Enderman. Now the Enderman is also pretty essential in beating the game, considering that you need pearls from it. I think it's a really good mob, and I want to put it in amazing, but I think it's not quite there, which is why I'm putting it into great. The Endermite. This mob does not spawn naturally, and honestly it's a pretty terrible mob. The only reason I won't put it into just horrible is because it's useful for Enderman farms, which is why it goes in eh. Next up, we have the Evoker. This is a great mob. I mean, it summons Vexes, it summons Crocodiles, and when you kill it, it drops Emeralds and a Totem of Undying. I mean, that is amazing. The Evoker goes into the amazing tier. The Fox. The Fox is an okay mob. I mean, most of what it does is just run around looking kind of cute and jump at chickens. It'll kill chickens sometimes, as foxes do, but it's kind of boring. I mean, it's an eh. That's where it belongs. The Frog. The Frog is an interesting mob in concept, but it doesn't really do much. It comes in 3 different colors depending on what biome you're in, and it doesn't really do much more than that. It'll eat magma cubes and slimes, and that's about it. So, eh. The Ghast. The Ghast is a very interesting mob because it's so annoying. But it also shoots fireballs, and that's pretty cool, and it drops gas tears, which can be used in potions or to make end crystals, so I'm gonna put it in good, even though I hate it. The Glow Squid. I mean, there isn't much to say about this mob. We all know it was a mistake, and we all know it's bad, so I'm just gonna spare you the time and put the Glow Squid in bad. The Goat. I mean, the Goat is just kind of not as good as it should be. I mean, in concept, it's a pretty interesting mob with its horns and its call and all, but it's very boring, and I'm putting it in disappointing. Should have been better. The Guardian. The Guardian is not a bad mob by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, I think it's pretty good. It has a very unique attack, drawing you in with its eye, and it drops a lot of XP, which makes Guardian farms very good. It drops Prismarine shards as well, so I'm gonna put it in good. Now we have the Hoglin. The Hoglin is an extremely annoying mob, but it also is pretty useful. I mean, if you kill it, you can get leather or pork chops, which is sometimes very useful in the Nether if you're running out of food. So as much as I hate the Hoglin, I'm gonna put it in mid rather than anything worse. Next we have the Horse. I mean, the Horse is a pretty cool mob. You can ride it, you can tame it, and it goes pretty fast. You can make it wear a saddle or horse armor if you have that. And it's really not a bad method of transportation. It can jump high, it can go fast depending on which one you find. So I'd say that the Horse will fit into the good tier. The Husk is our next mob, and it's pretty interesting because it's a zombie, but when it attacks you, it also gives you hunger. So that's a pretty cool twist. I'm gonna put it in mid though because it's way too rare. The Iron Golem. I mean, I think we all know where to put this one. The Iron Golem is one of the coolest mobs in Minecraft. It is the protector of the village, and you can even make one by yourself. I mean, that is so cool. It works in iron farms, and it works to protect villages, and it's just so cool. It goes in amazing. The Llama. The Llama is an interesting mob in theory, but I mean, it's pretty useless. You can ride it like a horse, and that's pretty much all you can do with it. You just tame it, put on a saddle, and you ride it around. But it's slower than a horse, it's annoying, and it spits at you when you hit it, so I want to put it in bad, but I'll put it in eh. The Magma Cube, one of the most universally hated mobs in Minecraft, and for good reason. This mob is a horror in the Nether. But it does drop Magma Cream, and Magma Cream can be used for fire res, so I'm gonna put it in mid, even though I hate it. The Mushroom. The Mushroom is a pretty interesting mob. It's pretty much a cow, but mushroom. You can milk it for mushroom stew, which is a decent source of food. You can also kill it and get leather or raw beef, so I think I'll put it in the same place I put the cow, in the great tier. Next we have the Mule. Now the Mule is an interesting one because you can tame it the same way you can tame a horse, but it's a lot slower than a horse. You'll use the saddle as well, but the thing about a mule is, it's not really supposed to be used like a horse. It's better than a donkey though in the fact that it has a secret use. You can put a chest on it and carry items on it. That is so cool. However, it doesn't spawn naturally, so I'm going to put it in mid. The Ocelot. Now, the Ocelot used to be able to be tamed into a cat, but it can't anymore, and it doesn't really have any purpose, so I just can't put in anything better than disappointing. The Panda. Look, I know a lot of people like the Panda, but they have absolutely no purpose. They're kind of cute sometimes, they eat bamboo, they roll around, it's very nice, but they're really, really useless, and I'm just gonna put them in eh. The Parrot. The Parrot is a pretty interesting mob. I mean, it sings and you can tame it, and when you do tame it, it ends up sitting on your shoulder, which I find really cool and unique, because it's just like a pirate. So that's why I'm gonna put the Parrot at good instead of mid. The Phantom. The Phantom is just a mistake. There really isn't a lot to say about it. I mean, I can go on and on about how terrible this mob is, but let's be real. It's either bad or it's disappointing, and me personally, I think it's bad. Now we have the Pig. The Pig is a pretty good mob. I mean, it drops pork chops, and you can even use a saddle on it, and then use a carrot on a stick as a method of transportation, which is pretty cool, and also Technoblade never dies, so we're going to put the Pig in great. The Piglin is a pretty decent mob. I mean, you can barter gold with it in exchange for stuff like pearls, obsidian, crying obsidian, arrows. You just have to worry about the fact that they will attack you if you're not wearing gold, or if you attack them first, or if you mine gold near them, but I'm still going to put them in great. Now we have the Piglin Brute. I know a lot of people don't like the Piglin Brute, especially speedrunners, but the Piglin Brute is actually a really cool mob. It's pretty much the Iron Golem of Bastions. It's not quite as good as the Piglin, so I'll put it in good. Next we have the Pillager. Now the Pillager is a pretty cool mob. It's not very intricate, and if you kill it, it drops either arrows or a crossbow, or sometimes both, but I don't think it's a bad mob, so I'm gonna go ahead and put it in good. I've tried to like polar bears, but if I'm being honest, there's really not a lot to like about them. If you attack them, they'll attack you. If they have a baby, they'll attack you, but they drop fish, so they're pretty disappointing. The pufferfish is another interesting mob. They're pretty rare, only spawning in warm oceans, and you can kill them and they'll drop pufferfish. But if you eat that pufferfish, you're going to get hunger, nausea, and poison, and that's honestly one of the worst trios of effects, so I'm gonna put pufferfish in bad, because if you kill a rabbit, it'll drop rabbit hide, rabbit meat, or occasionally a rabbit's foot, but I really just don't think these mobs are very good, so I'm gonna say they're an eh. The Ravager is actually a very interesting mob. It's one of the raid mobs, which means that it spawns during a raid. It wears a saddle so that it can be ridden by pillagers or evokers, and it drops a lot of XP when killed and does a lot of damage when attacking you. I know I hate this mob, but I'm still going to put it in good. Next we have the Salmon, which is pretty much like the cod. It's just a fish. When you kill it, it drops raw salmon. When you cook the raw salmon, it's cooked salmon, which isn't a great food source. I'm going to put it in eh. The Sheep is a good mob. If you kill it, you'll get raw mutton and wool, but you could also shear it for wool, and that's very useful if you need stuff like beds, so the Sheep will immediately go into the great tier. The Shulker is also really cool. I mean, it can make you levitate, it drops shulker shells, which if you combine with a chest will make a shulker box, which is pretty much just a transportable chest. But it's also very rare, only found in the End Islands and End Cities, so I'm gonna put it in great, not quite amazing. The Silverfish is a mob found only in strongholds pretty much, so that's cool, but they serve no purpose, and all they really do is just climb into stone or deep slate, so I'm going to put them in bad. The Skeleton is pretty much a staple of all Minecraft worlds. When you kill it, it drops a bow, arrow, or bones, or sometimes it drops all three like it did this time. It's so iconic that I want to put it in great, but let's be honest, it's only good. The Skeleton Horse sounds like such a cool mob, but it's really not. You can ride it like a horse, and it only spawns during a lightning strike. It's pretty much useless, and when you kill it, it just drops bones, so what's the point of it? This could have been so cool, and it's just disappointing. The Slime drops slime balls, which can be used in leads or sticky pistons, and they're not terrible mobs, they're just kind of boring, so in my opinion, slimes should be in mid. Sniffers are way too rare. You have to use a brush on suspicious sand or gravel in a warm ocean, and rarely you will get a sniffer egg which you place on a moss block that hatches a sniffer that has to grow up into a sniffer that does nothing but sniff flowers. This is a terrible mob and it's going in bad. I like snow golems, okay? But they are a little bit overrated. I mean, they're cool, but what do they really do? They shoot snowballs at hostile mobs and get killed easily because they have like no health. You can make them, sure, but they don't really do much. The most harm they do is to blazes, and most of the time you're not going to get a snow golem into the nether anyway. But I'm going to put it in good because I don't think it's bad enough to be eh. Spiders are pretty much the definition of mid, if I'm being honest with you. They drop string and spider eyes and a limited amount of XP. They're neutral mobs, which means that they don't attack you unless it's dark, I believe, so they're going definitely into mid. Squids are okay, I guess. I mean, they do drop ink sacs and they do spray you with ink when you hit them, which is pretty cool. It's just they're not really special in any way, which is why I'm gonna put them in eh. Strays are another mob that in theory should be pretty cool, but they're pretty much just skeletons that fire arrows of slowness and they live in cold places. So, I mean, they're cool, but they're not very cool, so I'm putting them in mid. I like striders, honestly. They're cute, they're cool, and you can ride them across lava lakes if you have a saddle to put on them and a warped fungus on a stick. So they're pretty much like one of the best mobs, aside from the fact that they don't really have too much of a purpose, so I'm putting them in good. Next up we have the tadpole. The tadpole is just frog spawn, so that's pretty cool. I mean, they'll grow up to be frogs, and frogs are okay, I guess, but tadpoles are pretty much nothing, so I'm putting them in N. The trader llama is a mob that's usually just best killed for its lead. I mean, it's annoying, it has pretty much no purpose, it'll spit at you if you hit it. The trader llama goes in bad. The tropical fish is something that could be kind of cool, I guess. It does come in a lot of different colors, but it's just a fish. It's boring. I mean, what do you expect? It's going in N. Turtles could be a lot better. In theory, they're cute mobs, but they don't really have much of a purpose. Sure, they drop scute when they grow up if you're the one to make them hatch, and you can use the scute to make a turtle shell, which gives you a little bit of water breathing, but they're really an eh mob. Look, I hate Vexes as much as the next person, but they're not terrible mobs. I mean, they're pretty cool. They're summoned by evokers, and they fly around, and they look mean, and they have a sword, and they phase through walls. I mean, I don't like them, but they're a good mob. Sometimes they annoy us, but villagers are still great mobs. I mean, you can trade with them for a plethora of items, including diamond armor, emeralds. I mean, there are so many things. They're going into the amazing tier. Is it just me, or are Vindicators one of the scariest mobs in Minecraft? I mean, these mobs are terrifying. They're axe-wielding, and they're evil, and they seek out villagers and kill them. When you kill them, they'll sometimes drop their weapon and emeralds, and I think they're a great mob. In theory, wandering traders should be really, really cool. I mean, they spawn in random places, and they trade a lot of different things. The problem is, their trades are pretty much always bad, so nobody wants to deal with them. Usually they end up getting killed, so I'm putting them in disappointing. The Warden is actually one of my favorite mobs. It is relatively new, only being brought in the 1.19 update, but they are very, very cool mobs. I mean, they have 250 hearts when you're on hard mode, and they guard a giant ancient city, and they have a sonic boom attack. They're so strong, they're so cool, but my problem with them is they drop a Skulk Catalyst. So I'm just gonna put them in good until they're updated. The Witch is another okay mob. I mean, they spawn in raids, and they spawn in caves, or they spawn when villagers are struck by lightning. They sometimes also spawn in witch huts, and they do have 13 hearts, which is pretty cool. They drop sugar, sticks, occasionally potions, but I think they're pretty mid. Next we have the Wither, which is another boss, and honestly it's a pretty good one. On Bedrock it has 300 hearts, and on Java it has 150 hearts when you're on hard mode. So it's pretty cool, and when you kill it, it drops a Nether star, which can be used to craft a beacon. It shoots out heads that give you the Wither effect. It's very cool, I'm putting it in amazing. The Wither skeleton is the only way that you're able to fight the Wither, and it spawns in Nether fortresses. It's a pretty cool mob. It's very tall and it carries a stone sword, and if you kill it enough times it'll drop heads. You need 3 of them to make the wither. It's a pretty cool mob. It can also drop coal and bones, so I'm going to put it in good. The wolf is a classic, honestly. With just a few bones, you could turn it into your own pet dog, and coming in 1.21, you'll be able to make armor for it. It also attacks hostile mobs, so that's pretty cool. One downside is that it does take fall damage, and it seems to die of fall damage quite a lot, so I'm going to put it in great instead of amazing. A zoglin is what happens when a hoglin goes to the overworld, and it's honestly pretty boring. You can kill it, and it just drops rotten flesh, so it's even worse than a hoglin. Honestly, this is not a great mob. I'm going to put it in eh. The zombie is absolutely iconic, although it's not the most incredible mob. I mean, all it does is drop rotten flesh when you kill it, and it does do some damage when it attacks you, and occasionally it'll drop you iron or like a carrot, but let's put it in good. Next up we have the zombie villager. The zombie villager can be turned back to a villager with a splash potion of weakness and a golden apple, and then it'll give you good trades, but it's kind of useless aside from that, just acting like a zombie, so I'm putting it in mid. Last but not least, we have the zombie piglin. This mob will only attack you if you attack it or another one of its kind. It drops golden nuggets and rotten flesh. It's a pretty good mob, and it's good for gold farms, so I'm going to put it in good, but not great. Thank you so much for watching this video. That is the full tier list of every Minecraft mob up until 1.20. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like and comment down below your own tier list and videos you'd like to see in the future. This video took me an extremely long time, so I'd appreciate any amount of support that you could give me. Also, you should probably subscribe, or else all these mobs from the tier list are going to be in your bedroom.